Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary with a knife video, and today we're going to do a company profile. I really enjoy doing these, and this is one that I've kind of been waiting to do for a little while now. I've been thinking about this, but I want to talk about SOG today. And SOG is one of those companies that, probably if you asked a bunch of people out in the street hey, what's a good folding knife, or what's a folding knife company that you even know about, you would probably get Gerber, Victorinox, or Swiss Army. They may not even know Victorinox or Wenger. They would say Swiss Army knife. Maybe Charade, and certainly SOG would come up on a lot of those people's lists, because if you go to, let's say, Canadian Tire or Walmart or one of those, SOG is going to be there. Now that does indicate a fairly high level of success, okay, and that I think is sort of a positive and a negative, okay, and we'll speak to that as we work our way through. But first, I want to back up a little bit and give a little bit of background for, number one, myself and my own knowledge of SOG, and two, the company itself. So my awareness of SOG came from when I first began to get interested in knives, and like probably many other people, the main people I would watch would be Nut and Fancy, Cutlery Lover. Eventually I discovered We All Juggle Knives, and then Jay Davis and Jim Skeleton and a bunch of others. But in those early days, you pretty well learn about SOG right away, because they're fairly prolific in terms of who owns one and who knows about them. They're pretty commonly talked about and commonly reviewed and commonly featured knife company. All right, if you watch SHOT Show videos or anything like that, okay, if you get the Cabela's catalog, if you get Bass Pro catalog, all of those places, you're going to hear about SOG. All right, so I heard about them and I was aware of them, and I had looked into different knives from SOG. Certainly I was aware of the SOG Vulcan probably fairly early, because I remember We All Juggle Knives had the video, The SOG That's Better Than SOG, and I didn't really understand what that meant, but I did think the knife was really cool, okay? And I have had a SOG Vulcan, and it is a really cool knife. Now, that was not my first SOG. I believe my first SOG was the SOG Tactical Tomahawk. Can't even open it, of course. So this was one of the first SOGs that I picked up, and I was actually quite pleased with it. And as you can see, I put quite a bit of use on this one. I love the way it feels in hand. It's just a really, really nice little tomahawk. I don't know what, I think probably the Aegis was next, and then the Vulcan. Now I've since passed the Vulcan along, but those were my first early introductions to SOG. And initially with the Tomahawk and the Vulcan, I was fairly impressed. The Aegis, I was like, not that much. Next one would have been the Flash 2. Obviously I knew about the Flash 1, but the Flash 2 is more in my size range, and even it's a bit of a small knife for me. I prefer something even a little larger than this. Anyway, so that's how I started to learn about SOG, and that's how I formed my opinion about the company. If you want to know sort of a little more earlier history than that, it is kind of interesting. Spencer Fraser was inspired by a special ops unit that functioned in Vietnam, and they were called the MACV-SOG, Special Operations Group. Okay, now they carried a particular Bowie knife that kind of inspired Mr. Fraser, and he wanted to make that knife, and he did. And by the way, that's still, the Tomahawk is exactly the same, or is essentially modeled after the Tactical Tomahawk that was issued to some soldiers in Vietnam. All right, so that's kind of the background of the company. Mr. Fraser was inspired by this special operations group from Vietnam, the weapons that they carried and used, and he wanted to make some of those weapons, okay? And you can still see that influence of the Vietnam era sort of tactical combat style of weaponry, okay? And they still kind of favor that kind of market, although sometimes they probably go a little too far and get a little tactical, okay? And we'll see that a little bit in at least one of the knives I have here. And certainly that's one of the things that kind of puts me off about the company, is their propensity to be a little mall ninja-y sometimes. All right, so let's talk about some things that I like about SOG, some things that I don't like about SOG, some things that I find are sort of common features of their blades that that either put me off or really attract me to them. So the first thing that I want to say about SOG is, in terms of design, in terms of the concept itself, of the knife that they're going to produce, they usually do a really good job. Okay, if you look at the SOG catalog, most of their knives, just in terms of their look, of their styling, I actually really like. Okay, and it doesn't matter. I like the simplicity and the ergonomics of the Flash 2. I like the, again, simplicity, the lines on the Visionary 2. 2 usually means larger. The Aegis is, you know, one of those knife designs that I think is a modern classic. It just, the simplicity with the full flat ground blade, the ergonomics. Again, the design on all of these is just outstanding. Okay, the tactical tomahawk. It's sort of cool how it combines a very traditional tomahawk look with a more contemporary feel. So again, over and over again, the SOG Steel Pup Elite, right? Very, very cool looking blades. And I really, really like the designs that SOG comes out with. This is one of my favorite small fixed blades. You know, I actually have thought about, and may still yet, getting some Kydex and making my own Kydex sheath for this knife so I can EDC it sometimes. So I think it's a really, really good EDC knife. I love the shape of it. I love the functionality of it. Even the Trident, there are a couple design features that I'm not crazy about, but the overall aesthetic of the knife, I really, really like. Okay, now, so one of the major pluses in terms of SOG is their designs. They tend to design knives that are interesting, that are compelling, that look attractive. Okay, the odd time, yeah, they go a little over the top with this sort of tactical look. Okay, and so I don't love every single thing that they do, but generally speaking, I like the designs that SOG goes with. All right, now I will say right now that I don't always like the way those designs are implemented, but I like the design on a piece of paper, in a picture, even just in hand. I like SOG designs. I really, really do. I think they do a great job. The other thing that I think SOG ought to get credit for is their fixed blades. I love, there's a ton of SOG fixed blades that are extremely well done. Okay, the two that I have here are really, really nice blades. They're tough. The blade steel, although it's AUS 8, is exceptionally well finished AUS 8. And so even, yeah, they just do a really good job with fixed blades. And I would recommend pretty well any SOG fixed blade, as long as it doesn't have the partial serrations. I do not like SOG serrations at all. Generally, I don't like serrations. So when serrations are done and they're not even that great, then I dislike them that much more. But most of the time, SOG fixed blades I find really good. I find the way they finish their AUS 8 steel is about the best you can get. Their knives are generally designed to be functional and comfortable, and they don't make a lot of mistakes. Now, the odd time, you know, there are some knives that I go, yeah, something could be different about this. This one's a perfect example where I would like to see, right here where they have an empty space is where I'd actually like to put my thumb in a saber grip, and it would be really uncomfortable. You have to either move it far forward or back, okay? But again, the overall impression that the knife gives, that cool clip point, is really, really good. And their fixed blades, I really like. Again, next is their older stuff. Okay, SOG has come out with some knives that are kind of key, all right, that have really influenced the industry overall. The SOG Pentagon Elite has just been a wildly popular knife. The SOG Vulcan. Now I do have here an older design, the SOG Visionary 2, and again, this is an older knife, but it does a lot of things really, really right. And it shows something that, you know, SOG's older stuff is really, really cool. And if you're a collector, or if you're an enthusiast, it's worth checking out some of those older models from SOG. Okay, so on the contrast, okay, I am not crazy about some of their newer stuff. Okay, not that the designs aren't good, not that the idea isn't good, but it's primarily the implementation of the ideas. You know, and let me pick on a few of these knives that I have that are the more modern designs. Okay, so here is the Trident Elite. Great idea. I love the handle shape, I love the blade shape, I love the recurve, I love the hollow grind, I love the ergonomics, but there are a couple things here that are really, really poorly done. The lock is a fail, the cord cutter is a fail, the pocket clip is a fail, and so, you know, whoever drew this knife, they did a great job. This is such a cool knife in theory, but when it comes to actually carrying off what they tried to do, they failed in a number of areas, okay? And that's where you go, come on guys, you're so close. Flash 2, another knife. I love the simplicity of this. I love the speed of the assist. I love the feel in hand. I love how lightweight it is, okay? But it has up and down blade play, pretty severe up and down blade play. It feels rather cheap, okay? It could be a little bit improved in terms of ergonomics. I'd like to see SOG think about the fact that people might want to put their fingers right here. This one's not as bad as some. The Aegis is one of the better ergonomically designed knives, but again, it still has a couple of weak points, primarily the feel in hand. If you squeeze on this hard, you can actually flex the whole handle. You can feel it moving. The lock, again, now one of these things, the things that all of these have in common, and you guys who have been on my channel for a while are going to be very familiar with the fact that this lock stinks, okay? It is a horrible lock. Why any company would continue to use it is beyond me. And if SOG would scrap this whole design and just go back to the drawing board and put a better lock in all of these knives, they would all be, I think, A's or A pluses. Okay, certainly these two would be A pluses. This one, there are a couple other changes that I would want to see, but it would still be a B. Okay. So, what am I driving at here? Well, here's what I think is happening, and here's why I don't think SOG will change this crappy lock design. Because their buyers are now the general population. Okay. The general population does not know about knives. They don't know that this should not happen, okay? And certain people don't help, all right? I've watched a number of Nut and Fancy's reviews, and generally I like Nut and Fancy, but I can't tell you how many times I've heard him forgive up and down blade play in SOGs. He won't do it with other companies, but when he talks about a SOG, he'll say, well, assisted knives always have some blade play. That's not true. I have a whole bunch of assisted knives that don't have any blade play. Okay, there's no excuse for it in our day and age. It's not like we don't have the manufacturing technology to build a knife that doesn't have blade play. And the problem with all of these knives is their lock. And in fact, I may send this video to Nut and Fancy and say, look man, you got to get on SOG because he seems to have some influence with a lot of companies. You got to get on them and get them to scrap that stupid lock, okay, because it's a piece of junk. So, moving past the arc actuator lock, all right, I want to talk about some other things that I like. The Aegis, they've got such lightweight, okay, all of these knives. The weight is amazing on these knives, and I understand why they don't go back to something like the Visionary. It is a little heavy for what you're getting. It's not too heavy at all, okay? Not too heavy by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it's a great knife, and it will be a very, very positive review on this knife. But it is a little heavier. So they said, hey, how do we reduce the weight? Well, we take away any kind of steel in the frame, and I would like to see them go with even a small bit of a stainless steel liner, sort of like what the Griptilian does. The Griptilian still comes in at a really light weight, but it does have enough steel to support their axis lock. And this one, I understand, you know, you may need those steel liners to make the arc lock work properly. Okay, and the arc lock is a really good lock. This thing is rock solid. It's what a folding knife should be like. Now, we're talking about the things I dislike about SOG, okay? We already talked about what I like. One last thing that I dislike, and that is this. They seem to have lost some of their vision when it comes to being a knife company, okay? And I understand that companies exist to make money, okay? It wouldn't be sensible to have a company that was not profitable, all right? But I'm still gonna say that in the last few years, since I've been into knives, most of the SOGs that I like came around before I knew about knives, or knew much about them. What it feels like is that SOG has stopped caring about making knives and just cares about making money, okay? And I understand that a company needs to make money, but there's something about a knife company, okay? And I don't know what you call it. It's visible though in companies like Cold Steel. Cold Steel is definitely interested in making money. They're practically just a marketing company, but there's something in their designs that just say, hey, we like knives, okay? Gerber, on the other hand, they make knives because they want to sell them and make money, okay? And I feel like SOG is going that way. I saw a comment not that long ago on a thread on the internet that said, this is a knife from back when Gerber used to make legendary blades, okay? And I feel like SOG is in a similar situation. I feel like the stuff that they're coming out with now is designed to appeal to a larger audience that knows nothing about what a good knife actually should be, okay? And it's working for them, there's no question, right? A knife like this, non-knife people see this compared to this, and they go, oh man, that Trident Elite looks so cool, and look at all the extra features it has, and it's assisted opening, and this knife seriously blows this thing out of the water. It's not even a fair comparison. Okay, this is 10 times, 20 times the knife that this is. All right, and there are still things that aren't perfect about this knife, by the way. Finally, one last thing that I don't like about SOGs is that they tend to be a little overpriced. When you do come up with a knife from SOG that's a really good knife, okay, and this would be a good example. I think this knife would compete very well with the Paramilitary 2, with the Griptilian. It's that level of quality, okay? It's that level of knife. But the retail on these is like way more. Like a Pair 2 is like, what, 120, 130 bucks, where this thing is like 170. Okay, so of course it's not going to sell well because someone's going to look at this and they're going to look at a Pair 2 and they're going to go, gee, the Pair 2 is as good, if not better, for $50 less. Which one are you going to buy? Okay, so they tend to be a little overpriced as well. All right, so that's my last dislike about SOG is they tend to be a little overpriced. They tend to be making knives now for people. They know they're just going to sell because they look cool, not because they're any good, okay? And they're selling them to mall ninjas who know nothing about a good knife. They tend to be a little on the cheap side, okay? Their steel is not going to be on par. If you compare $120 SOG with $120 practically anything else, the materials on the SOG are going to be a little less, not quite as good, okay? And I guess SOG is trying to say, well, we're a better company, we're making a knife of better quality, so you should pay more for it. I don't buy that. You're not a better, it's not a better company than a Spyderco or a Benchmade or any number of others that we could talk about, okay? So, that's my take on SOG. I think they have a lot of great knives. I think they've made a great impact and influence on knife design and on the knife community, but I think somehow they've lost something that they used to have. Okay, I don't know how to describe it, whether you say they've sold out, but that doesn't make sense because a company exists to make money in the first place. They've lost something about their love for blades, I think. Okay, they've stopped making knives that are for knife people. They've stopped making knives that are for people who love knives, and now they just want to sell to mall ninjas, all right? And I understand that from a marketing standpoint, that makes more sense, because there's a lot more idiots out there than there are, you know, a small, select, discerning knife community. It makes total sense. I get it. But I just wish they would continue to do what they used to do and offer these great knives. You know, the SOG Vulcan, the SOG Pentagon Elite, the SOG Visionary 2, the SOG SEAL Team Elite, the SOG SEAL Pup. These are great, iconic, influential blades. And I think if you're into knives and if you're a collector, you ought to at least know about them, if not own them. But the knives that they're coming out now with tend to be, you know, chintzy. They tend to be marketed more on looks than they are on functionality. They tend to be overblown, like in the marketing for the Aegis. You know, they talk about this being a hard use tactical knife. In no sense of the word is this hard use. Okay, if you hold this and you hold the zero tolerance, which really is hard use, it doesn't even compare. This, okay, could be called a pretty hard use knife, because it really is fairly durable and robust and a really good knife. Okay, so if you like SOG, if you want to buy a SOG, buy a fixed blade. They do great fixed blades. They finish AUS-8 extremely well. Try to steer away from the knives that have this fake arc lock, the arc actuator lock. Almost any SOG that has the real arc lock is going to be a win, as long as you like the look of it and ergonomics of it. Okay, hopefully SOG will kind of come back and do some things that are cool again. You know, I wish that, you know, for the 2016 lineup, there's another knife that's on par with the Visionary 2 or the Vulcan or one of those classic amazing SOGs. Okay, there you go, guys. That's my take on SOG as a knife company. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you're just a major fanboy and you just love everything about SOG, let me know why. And if you've had some bad experiences and if you feel the way that I do, go ahead and let me know why as well. Talk to you soon, and I hope you enjoyed the video.